This is Luke Haupt, senior guard for the Lobos. This is episode 118 of the Talking Grammar podcast.
Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Jeff Grammer with the Albuquerque Journal, and as you just heard, this is episode 118 of the Talking Grammar podcast. Today's guest, Luke Haupt, one of the new Lobos. That's easy enough to say because they're all new. The entire roster is flipped. The entire coaching staff is new. They're all new, so I really enjoy bringing these podcasts to you guys as the season draws closer. We're about 2 weeks away from an exhibition game, about 3 weeks away, about 4 weeks away, actually, I think a little under 4 weeks, I guess, from opening day, first game, November 4th. What is that, 4 weeks or 3 weeks? Should probably look at a calendar sometime. You'd hope the Journal's beat writer would know if that's 3 or 4 weeks away. But anyway, it's getting close. I know that much. And Luke today kind of helped shed some light on why a six-year Division II player, a six-year senior who has played Division II his whole career so far, made the jump to Division I. Does he feel like he has anything to prove? He is the son of one of the winningest active coaches, high school basketball coaches in California, Mike Haupt. He's from the San Diego area, St. Augustine. He's a basketball guy, this Luke Haupt. He knows the game. He'll be a coach one day, I imagine, and his basketball IQ is pretty high. Don't mistake that for a guy who also isn't pretty athletic, who also isn't a pretty good basketball player. He can play the 1, he can play the 5. He can play any position on the court, and obviously they're hoping he doesn't have to play the 5 a whole lot, but he can fill in at the 5 if he needs to. And we talk about all that. We have some fun with this one. Dayton Albury was the senior transfer guard that I spoke with last week, and is lightning quick. We talk a little bit about Dayton and his role on this team and how fun it is to play with the point guard like that. So hope you guys are enjoying this podcast, or I hope you guys enjoy this podcast. Hope you're enjoying all of these Lobo basketball kind of introductory press conferences, or these introductory podcasts rather, with the coaches and the players. But also the Albuquerque Journal Podcast Network has I think a dozen podcasts rolling right now that you can get new episodes on. We obviously in the sports realm, Sean Ryder has his weekly podcast for Lobo football. James Yodis and Prep Central is rolling on a regular basis every week about high school sports. And we got a lot of other stuff going on at the, like I said, the Albuquerque Journal Podcast Network. You can get there at abqjournalcast.com. We'll take you straight to all the podcasts. I do ask, if you're watching this right now on YouTube, to subscribe to the Journal's YouTube channel. Under the podcast link there, you can see all of our podcasts and watch them. If you're listening to this podcast, wherever you download your podcast, please subscribe. The Talking Grammar podcast will get right to your phone or right to your device, wherever you listen, immediately when there's new episodes. And it does help. So please subscribe. Please like, comment, all that kind of stuff. It helps the analytics, helps the engagement, helps these podcasts, and you guys help us keep going. And if you can support local journalism, I ask that you do so. abqjournal.com/subscribe is how you can subscribe to the Journal's digital or print product, or both. And that helps these podcasts. That helps us put out the product every day in both writing and video and audio and all that good stuff. So what I like to do first on these podcasts is, whoever that day's guest, I'd like to find somebody that knows them a lot better than I do and can give us a little bit of a scouting report. Today, I got the scouting report from one of Luke Haupt's old coaches and his dad, Mike Haupt. Hope you guys enjoy this scouting report. Mike Haupt on his son, Luke Haupt. All right, well, Mike Haupt, I appreciate you for joining me. I am talking with Luke this episode, and obviously I always try and find somebody for a scouting report that can give us some insight on that guest. And there's not a whole lot of better ways to get insight on a player than somebody who's coached him and somebody who has parented him.
Sure.
And you've done both, so I thought you'd be the perfect guest to give us a scouting report on Luke. Are you able, you think, to give us a good?
I think so.
Scout? Thanks
for having me. Yeah, I got the advice from the person in charge. So my wife Sherry, she told me what I'm supposed to say. We'll see how it goes.
For those that don't know, for Lobo fans who are still getting to know this team, getting to know Luke, and getting to know all these players and coaches, Luke does come from. He is the son of a coach who's been doing it a little while. You've racked up some wins, huh?
Well, I started at the college level at the University of San Diego and coached there for 4 with a pretty incredible crew of coaches. Mike Brown, who's with the Knicks, Randy Bennett, who's at St. Mary's, Kyle Smith, who's at Stanford. So we had a good crew there. And then 31 years here at St. Augustine High School, which is an all-boys Catholic school in San Diego.
This is the first I heard of the staff. You actually you were you on the staff at San Diego?
Yeah, that was our staff. Hank Egan was our head coach, who went to the Spurs with Greg Popovich.
Yeah.
And then the other part of our staff was Mike Brown before he went to Denver, and then once Hank left, Brad Holland came in and we were all with him for a little bit, and then we all kind of went our separate ways.
Well, I got to know Mike Brown pretty well a few years back.
Okay.
And his son, his son came to UNM, and it was one of those, I'm sure really hard times for Mike where he was getting paid, $1 million not to coach one year, and he got to fly around the country to watch Elijah.
Yep.
And but because of that, he and I were on a lot of the same flights, and we got to know each other really well. Mike Brown actually has a home here in Albuquerque. Yep. I don't know if you knew that or not.
Well, that's who I called when Luke decided to go there, because we were trying to figure out where Luke was going to live. Yeah, Mike and I are still close.
That's awesome. Yeah. I mean, how crazy is it that Albuquerque, New Mexico, of all places, not only has a Mike Brown, but has a James Borrego who lives here.
Yep.
There are 2 NBA head coaches. James is not a head coach right now, but could be, and also has the San Diego ties.
Yep.
It is kind of crazy that Albuquerque has that, and those are both on the pro sides, obviously. The college side of things, the Pitt and UNM Lobos are what this whole state really kind of just eats up. They love Lobo basketball.
Right.
And you played a little college basketball too before the coaching, right? You were.
I did. So I started at San Diego State and played in the Pit. Kind of a funny story. I get in the game, we hadn't scored yet, so nobody was sitting down. It was like 7 minutes into the game. And we had a good team. We went to the tournament my freshman year at San Diego State. It was the year after Michael Cage. So 1984-85. And I got into the game. I was a point guard, and I dribbled up the right side, picked up the ball to throw it to the wing, realized the wing was overplayed, put the ball right back down and started dribbling again. So my first possession was a double dribble right in front of their bench. It was going crazy, and I just couldn't, with the noise and the craziness and the pressure, I just couldn't get the ball out of my hands fast enough. So luckily they didn't call double dribble. I got it across the floor and threw it to the wing and said, thank God that's over with, because I knew I was just going to get in and turn it over right away. And it was because of the Pit and the atmosphere, and it was a lot for an 18-year-old kid.
So this was what, mid 80s?
84, 85, yeah.
84, 85.
Yep.
It's funny you bring up the standing up, because the history of the standing up at the Pit kind of some people don't know why the tradition is to stand up until one team scores or the other. So at the Pit, they just do it until both teams score, which is kind of a weird tradition. And I think it's because there was some confusion early on. This goes way back, but they actually stand up. Yeah, they stand up until both teams score.
Yeah.
And I witnessed one game that got to the second media timeout once. It was Prairie View A&M. It was one of those games, but it was a second media timeout, 12 minutes to go in the first half still, and that team.
I'm glad Luke is on the Pit side. I'm glad he's on New Mexico's side, to be honest.
He will be taken care of in the Pit, that's for sure.
He's excited about it.
Yeah, and as a coach, before I ask you the 3 important scouting report questions, as a coach, I guess I'm curious what you tell a guard in a situation like that. Is it to the easy thing is, hey, just block out the noise, but like, what do you tell one of your players in a situation like that?
Well, you hope you've been in some of those situations before, because if it's the first time, there's nothing you really can say to prepare somebody for it. I just think it comes with experience. Obviously for Luke, being a 24-year-old 6th-year senior, hopefully his composure will be there because he's been through some of those things.
Yeah, I don't know what the ages are of some of the players, but Luke's got to be right up there.
He's the old guy, yeah.
He's got to be, but there are a few. He's not alone. I think there are a few of them that are, which is a good thing in college basketball.
Sure.
Last few years, it was about getting older. And all right, let me ask you then. The first question I ask everybody on these scouting reports, and I might ask you a couple of basketball questions at the end, but the first few questions are all the same for everybody. The first one is, when you get to know Luke, the first thing you learn about him, or one thing that everybody knows about Luke, is what?
Well, as his dad, I think what you see is a really, really good kid, just a really kind-hearted, cares about his teammates, cares about who he's representing, and then a really smart kid. A really, he's funny. He's got a great sense of humor. He's talented in a lot of ways, and he'll be a great leader for this team because he's not afraid to share himself with others and call out guys honestly when things aren't going well. So what you're going to see is a leader, and that's what we're proud of as his parents and as his coach.
I guess that leadership comes a little bit probably from being the son of a coach. He's been around coaching his whole life.
Sure.
But did he have some natural, even before he was playing for you and getting really involved in sports, did he have some natural leadership abilities, or is it something he grew to kind of learn how to do?
No, I think it's there. I think he has two older brothers. So there's that competitiveness that comes out between brothers. But it was very clear, Luke was always the biggest kid growing up, whatever grade he was in. But I remember him in 4th, 5th grade, he'd look at me on the sideline and go, Dad, what is that guy doing? And he's a 3rd, 4th grader looking at my high school team. And I'd go, Luke, you're right. but we got, I got to give him a chance because it'd be like in a summer league game or something, And so it's been there. Yeah, it's been there. And then I think just being around, he grew up in a gym.
Yeah.
So I think just that part of it, it's natural, but he has developed it as well.
All right. The second question I ask everybody on these scouting reports is, what is one thing that almost nobody knows about him? You as somebody who knows him very well might know this, but what's something that almost nobody knows about Luke Haupt?
That's a tough one. He'll say he did a little scoop earlier, and he said he's flown a plane.
Yeah.
So I don't even know that. It was his buddy Brian from Point Loma that had his pilot license. But I think there's a couple things that I think people would be interested. Is he loves dogs.
Okay.
And he loves big dogs. And we first noticed it. My wife and I were with him in a Home Depot when he was probably 8 or 9. And this big Mastiff was in Home Depot and kind of sidled up to Luke and put his paw on Luke's foot. And, Luke, we would kind of call the big puppy dog because he was kind of this clumsy, awkward kid because he hadn't grown into his body.
Yeah.
And you see this big old puppy standing next to this kid who's a big puppy. And Luke, you could tell, he would have sat there all day with that dog and just petted him. And so I think his desire to have a big dog will someday come out. So those are the two things probably that people don't know. That he also thinks he's a pretty good grill master. So that may be something you want to bring up, that he thinks he can kill it on the barbecue. So
I like the way you set that up. I have a suspicion that maybe there's a little bit of a debate who the better grill master is. And,
so you might want to check in on that to see where he falls on that deal.
All right. The third thing I want to ask, and then actually before I ask this last one, I do want to ask you, since you were a player and he's a player, he had 2 older brothers as well. You and him ever do one-on-one any driveway or in that you guys?
Yeah, no, my body's a mess just from playing and that. But it is funny. People will say that he's kind of my twin.
Yeah.
I think he's way better than I was.
Okay.
I wasn't great offensively. He's way better offensively than I was. And I tell him I was kind of meaner and tougher, but he won't agree to that either. But no, we did go at it, in the neighborhood, but he had to win all the time, so it didn't always go so well.
Yeah, I'm curious all the time when the current college players finally beat Dad, but in the case of having some older brothers sometimes too, he was probably had plenty to try and overcome just beating the older brothers.
Yeah, they were both good players. My middle one ended up playing soccer, so he kind of defected, but
yeah,
they played plenty growing up for sure.
All right. The third question I ask, and as well as you know him, obviously you have an opportunity to ask him anything you want anytime. I'm sure you guys talk regularly, but if you were interviewing him, if you're doing a podcast, what would you ask Luke Haupt?
I think the first thing that came to mind, my wife and I were talking about this, the first thing that came to mind for us is what would he say to himself? That kind of typical question, right?
Yeah.
What advice would he give himself? Because his path has been, unique as some have. He came out of high school during COVID.
Yeah.
And so his recruiting was strange because he couldn't go on a visit. People couldn't come see him. So he had this great opportunity at Point Loma Nazarene to go win a national championship and try for that because they've been at a high level at Division II. But that wasn't the path that everybody says a Division I player should take, because I thought he was a Division I player coming out of high school. But he took advantage of that, grew from that, and took a little bit of a different path, because now he's got 1 year to say, hey, this is what I can do at an even higher level. And so I would like to know from him, has he been okay with that path? Would he suggest that path for somebody else? Because maybe if he goes Division I, he gets buried somewhere and doesn't get the opportunity to make mistakes like he did at the D2 level. So that would be one thought for me to him, is to see what he thought of his path and what that advice would be for somebody else maybe.
So that leads into a big theme of I think really this whole team, but he kind of personifies it in a lot of ways. There are people here in Albuquerque. Look, this is a team that last year, with the last name Patino as a head coach, a point guard named Donovan Dent, who's now starting at UCLA. 2 years ago, a guy named JT Toppin, who's going to be a first-team All-America candidate. They've had a pretty good run of name star kind of players, and then Eric comes in, and there's some people say, "Oh, okay, they're taking a guy from UC San Diego, used to be a D2 coach, okay." Guys like Luke, or a D2 player. He has a teammate, Milos Vicente, who was a D2 player, went to UC San Diego. There's no questioning Eric in his mind has a plan, right, and has a way that he coaches a team, and he fits it together, and he doesn't care how many stars are next to somebody's name. But there are some fans that are going to, even within the Lobo ranks, who are going to cheer like crazy for him, but have their doubts until they see it on the court. And that is kind of something I'll ask him, but I'll ask you as well. Do you think there's a little something to prove? I think you kind of already answered that, where you said you think he's a D1 player and you thought he was out of high school. Right. But do you think there's a little bit of you can't wait for him to sort of prove what I just said?
Absolutely. No question. And I think the beauty of what Eric has done at UCSD, if he can do it there with the resources that weren't there for him necessarily, that other people had, not that they don't have resources, but not the same. That I hope people are patient with Eric, because he does have a plan, and he's really brilliant and a good man and has great coaching staff. And I think it's a lesson for Eric too, right? Like it's kind of the whole crew coming in saying, we can do this. Yeah. And what I love about it with Eric and guys like Luke and Chris Howell and the guys that I know on the team, is what matters is the team. Yeah. And I think what sometimes gets lost, without sounding like I'm 100 years old, is in this age of how much are you going to pay me, and I'm only going to stay a year, and you can still win if you've got a better team than the whole bunch of individuals in a program. Right. And so I think that's what New Mexico should be excited about. I know that's what Luke's excited about. And you're right. He wants to prove that he belongs. And I think, but I also do think, Jeff, that because, again, he was able to grow, that there's going to be failure, right? It's going to go good and bad like any season. And I think these guys who are veterans can come in and go, we've done it before. We're going to be okay. As long as New Mexico fans have a little bit of patience, it's going to turn out all right, I think.
Well, one of the things I like about this team, and I've been trying to almost talk myself off of it a little bit, because I think I'm going to be an outlier, and I'm more optimistic than I think the media poll is going to be. I think they'll be picked 6th or 7th overall in the
How do you know, right?
Right. And I'm going to pick them like 3rd-ish probably. Okay. San Diego State will be number 1, which I know some Lobo fans won't be okay with that at all. But I think this team's pretty good. And one of the things I think about them is I don't see big, I guess low points. I just think there's enough veterans. Right. They're all new, so it's hard to think of them as veterans, but they are. There's so much veteran leadership on this team that I just don't think they're going to have extended dips, One or two players might, but I just don't see the team as a whole going into these low points that last 2 or 3 games.
Well, that's good to hear, because what's been hard for me, quite honestly, is, Luke's been in San Diego, so I have no idea what practice looks like, and I've been trying to get out there to watch for a couple of days and haven't been able to, so I appreciate your input on that, because that gets me excited for the team.
Yeah, I'm getting excited too. I mean, by I'm lucky enough to get paid to watch basketball, and it's fun, and I'm ready for it, man. I'm ready for it, and I look forward to meeting you and
Same
your
here.
family during the season when I
Same
can,
here.
and look forward to talking to Luke in a little bit. And this podcast, I think, will be a good chance for a lot of Lobo fans to finally get to know Luke a little bit.
Well, thanks for having me. They're going to love Luke because he's going to dive on the floor and he's going to be gritty and take charges and do a lot of things that are really smart and talented. So I think he's going to be a fan favorite, and I appreciate you highlighting him. That means a lot to him and to us.
You dive on the floor once in the pit, and they're going to love you.
All
Mike,
right,
appreciate
Jeff.
you. Thanks. All
Thanks for your time.
right, bye. All right, there you go. Mike Haupt, kind of giving us a scouting report on his son, Luke Haupt. A guy who actually played in the pit, a dad who played in the pit and played at San Diego State, and is now a highly successful high school basketball coach. We don't get those a whole lot, that combination a whole lot here on the podcast to give us a scouting report. So who better than him, right? And he obviously had some great stories to tell. And I do look forward to meeting him and all the and his wife and all the other parents of the players when I can this season. And I hope you guys all get to meet a lot of them too. That's part of what's pretty cool about Lobo basketball. And yes, I'm an Aggie, New Mexico State Aggie graduate saying this, but it is one kind of cool thing about a program like UNM Lobo basketball when the fans sort of embrace the families of the players as much as Lobo fans seem to do every year with Lobo basketball players and their families. So thought that was pretty cool. Again, hope you guys enjoyed this podcast. Let's get right to it. I'll quit wasting more time. Here's my conversation with new UNM Lobo guard, Luke Haupt. Luke, let's go, man. This is an exciting time because we're, I guess, a couple weeks from some exhibition now, a little less than 2 weeks from an exhibition, but just a few weeks away from getting this season started. And you, like everyone on the team, but maybe even more so than some of the others, are a bit of an unknown to Lobo fans. You aren't a transfer from Utah State like Dayton, who I had on the podcast last week. You aren't a guy that a lot of Lobo fans know about. So I'm curious, just from the jump, like what's the one thing you would tell Lobo fans about Luke Haupt?
Yeah, I would say that I'm somebody that does it all on the floor. When you watch me play, I'm going to be playing point guard. I'm going to be playing center, and just doing whatever I can to help the team win. I think ultimately that's one of the biggest parts of my game is winning basketball, making winning plays. And so I hope the Lobos fans see that and really like what they see out there.
All right, so your path, for those that don't know, we'll walk through your path here a little bit. Dad, you've been in San Diego your whole life, is that right?
My entire life, yes.
Yeah, and your dad played at San Diego State and played at USD and started in college coaching and has been a high school coach pretty much, it seems like, for your life, pretty much, right?
Yeah, forever.
He's been, he has 600. If I have the number right, I think it's 630 wins, somewhere in that ballpark, and that certainly puts him among the winningest active coaches in California. And if you're getting that many wins in California, you're probably doing something right. So let's start there, man. What's it like growing up with just a basketball lifer like your dad?
It was awesome. I was always in the gym. I would call St. Augustine, where I went to high school, where he's been coaching forever, my second home. So I was at every practice I could go to, every game I could go to. I was sitting by the bench. Me and my brothers just wrestling during the game, doing whatever, trying to distract him pretty much. But yeah, it was awesome. I was able to see the game at a different level, from a different angle than everybody else, because I was just always around. And then he did a great job staying out of it. He would coach me on very few things. It would be play hard and have a good attitude. And then if I wanted help on other things, I had to go to him and he'd help me. But other than that, he stayed out of it because he knew he was going to coach me in high school.
I'm curious, growing up, and you have two older brothers, is that right?
Yes, two older brothers.
I'm curious, what are the ages? How much older are they?
My oldest brother is 30, and then the next one is 26.
And then you're the old guy on the team now. You're a sixth-year guy, so you got to be pretty much
24.
24. So
we're all pretty close.
Yeah, that's all within the realm of they beat you up quite a bit growing up, I imagine, right? You had to hold your own
Yeah, there was a lot of wrestling. My mom would say a lot of times, just take it outside. She didn't want to
Yeah.
deal with it. But it was
Break
good
the
for me.
couch.
Helped me
Yeah.
grow up a little faster, get a little stronger.
Do you think that plays into how you play now? I mean, is there a level of toughness that came from being the third of three brothers?
Definitely. Yeah, I mean, we'd go outside and play basketball in the front yard. It would always end in a fight. But you learn that physicality, and then just getting tough. Like they weren't going to take it easy on me, and I don't expect anybody else to. So you just got to be tougher and figure it out on your own.
All right, this isn't exactly like you guys were all playing football, but you do have a brother that was an all Big West soccer player. I am curious when you're talking about all this tough guy stuff. When you got a brother that goes to play soccer, do you guys give him a little bit of a hard time that he couldn't take the physicality of basketball anymore?
We gave him a tough time for sure about playing soccer, especially defense. Just we'd go to his game and he wasn't scoring, but he was a great soccer player. And I mean, he's 6'4", about 200 pounds as a soccer player. So he kind of imposed his will on the defensive end. He was bullying people around. So
I was going
it
to
wasn't like
say,
he was just out there flopping around. He was putting shoulders into people and setting the tone.
I imagine he could probably still play some basketball too.
He's athletic. I would say his basketball skills are pretty limited, but he's very athletic.
Some brother, some shots being fired. What about and that was your middle brother?
Yes, middle brother.
What was the older brother? Did he play some sports in high school too?
He played basketball in high school, and then ended up playing basketball at JUCO, and then had chances to play D2, but ultimately decided just to not go that route.
Well, not then just that I'm speaking to you, but you at least coming out of high school and going into college were it sounds like the best basketball player of the three, and I know you came out recruiting wise during COVID, which meant a lot of different things to a lot of different people. I am curious how COVID being the year that you came out of high school played into you deciding to go the D2 route. I imagine you could have been on some D1 rosters somewhere, but you went the D2 route, stayed a little closer to home, and had a chance to go chase a national championship at the D2 level.
Yeah, exactly, and that was the key: is chasing the national championship and being in a really high level program. I could have waited a little longer. I could have gone the JUCO route, taken different options, but I decided to pick a place where I knew I could make an impact. It's a great school, faith based, and I was going to have an impact right away. And I think that, as much as anything in my basketball career, has had a huge impact on me because I got to play so much and just learn as I go, and it's led me to where I am today.
You spent 5 years there. Obviously, you tore ACL. Is that right? Was it an ACL?
Yes, ACL.
Okay. So you it's now 3 years ago. You have a really, really good season statistically speaking. You then sit out a year for tearing your ACL. You then last year come back, and the numbers were obviously very solid and very all around. But you had another player on the team that scored more than you. So just a quick look at stat sheets when a Lobo fan or somebody sees, okay, there's a D2 guy coming to play for the Lobos. He wasn't his leading scorer on his D2 team. There's a lot of questions, I think, still to be answered about Luke Haupt. And I know what the coaches say about you, and I've been to some practices now, so I've seen you play, and but myself included. Like, okay, who is this guy? What can he do? I'm curious how much that plays into your motivation for this season. I think this is a team with a whole lot of we have to prove people wrong kind of stuff attitudes, but I think you epitomize that as much as anybody because you're a D2 guy who probably isn't getting a whole lot of respect coming in here. I don't think anyone's saying, wow, the Lobos got that D2 guy. So what do you have to do in your mind to prove everybody wrong, or do you try not to think of it in terms of that?
Yeah, I think when I was younger and I went the D2 route and we'd have exhibitions against D1s, like at Loma we played Pepperdine and they came into our place, and I had a big chip on my shoulder because I think I was good enough to go there. Played really well, but it's the wrong motivation in my eyes. I'm focused on being the best version of myself that I could be, and that's good enough wherever I would have decided to go. And I think that's going to be good enough here for the Lobos as well. Like you talked about before, I wasn't the leading scorer on my team last year. We also had great players at the D2 level. I don't think people always understand that, is a lot of players at the D2 level can play at the next level. And so I trusted my teammates. I made the right plays. I I don't think I was the leading scorer, but I think I was the leading rebounder and leading assist on the team.
And steals.
And steals. So you're not always going to lead every category on every team that you're on, but I like to have an impact in every aspect of the game.
Do you, I guess I'm curious if you feel that you got out of the D2 experience what you wanted to get out of it.
100%. I had two coaches while I was there, Coach Matt Logie, who's at Montana State now, and Coach Justin Downer, who's still at Point Loma. And I learned so much from those two. I came in as a guy that was not really an offensive player. I would play defense. I'd play really hard. And kind of as my career went on, I developed more and more into a guard. And then last year, playing fully point guard for our team, and just continuing to learn every day and having a great mindset that those guys taught me to have. I wouldn't want it any other way. I think it was the perfect route for me.
All right, so you're a guy that basketball IQ wise, I think in among your 5 questions when you signed with New Mexico, I reached out to all the recruits when they got here because it's an entirely new team, and I just asked you guys all 5 questions, and one of the ones I asked you was about playing for or what you learned from your dad, who was a coach, and you just said you'd mentioned a high basketball IQ, that you just have had an understanding of the game, probably growing up in the gym and watching it through a coach's eyes in some respects. So you really credit your dad for kind of instilling in you a high basketball IQ. I'm curious how that basketball IQ comes into play when you're a newcomer, and there's so many newcomers on this team, but do you just come in and start, does it just sort of come naturally, or do you have to take a minute, I guess, to see your new teammates, to learn what they do right and what they do well? Because high basketball IQ sometimes is learning what your teammates are good at and bad at to know how to best utilize them and what you can do to best play off them. So how long does it take a guy with a good basketball knowledge to sort of get comfortable when you're a newcomer?
Yeah, it definitely takes some time. When I got here in the summer, well, first the altitude really got to me.
Right.
That took a second to get used to. So you're tired every day.
Not exactly like running on the beach every morning.
Yeah, exactly. So you're tired and you're not really thinking as much as you should be. And I would say about the first couple weeks it took for me to understand my teammates, understand what everybody's good at, bad at, and then be able to really fit the pieces together and kind of be the glue that holds the team together a little bit.
Do you think that this is, you mentioned you're 24, but there are some other guys that are old for these parts, right? For the college world, like there are some guys that are certainly, I guess there are a bunch of you that could go get a drink, I guess, after the game if you wanted to. Not that you would, of course, but there are some guys that are in their 20s. That is a veteran squad for college basketball. And even lately, when the transfer portal and all this other stuff started happening, where teams started getting a little older, you guys, for being a brand new team, are surprisingly, I guess not, the cohesion isn't there, but you guys are very experienced. And I'm curious who takes the lead then in being a leader when there's so many older guys.
Yeah, I mean, everybody leads in their own way. So on a good team, you're not going to have 1 or 2 leaders. You're going to have everybody leading at what they're good at. So like Dayton, super good in transition, super quick. Like he's going to push people to get out more in transition and be more aggressive. Chris shares the ball, he guards, he can get on people in those categories. So ultimately, we all have things that we're good at, and the best teams, those players speak what they're good at. And I think we've done a good job at that so far.
What do you guys do other than basketball? There's some gamers on this team? Or there's some people that love going? It still cracks me up. Eric Olin made a comment a couple weeks ago to Presser that Tamayo Pons is having the most fun in college as anybody, and just kind of, it seems like you guys have a lot of good-natured, kind of just fun-loving guys that so far you haven't lost a game. So maybe that's why everyone's in a good mood. But it seems like you guys have got a lot of just sort of happy-go-lucky kind of guys.
Yeah, no, for sure. I've been super happy with how this group has come together and all the people that are in the group. That could be a concern when you come in and you don't know a single person on the team.
Right.
And so everybody gets along super great. We got a lot of guys that we all hang out outside of practice, which is huge, especially with a new team, trying to building that chemistry and those relationships.
kind of stuff do you guys do? Is it some games though? Is there a good gamer on the team?
I would say Tajavis and Sir Marius are pretty good at 2K. Those guys love to play. They talk about it all the time in the locker room. I'm sure I'm going to get some hate from some other guys that want me to shout them out as good gamers as well.
What about sports fans? You're a Padres fan, aren't you?
Big Padres fan. Unfortunately, it didn't play out how we wanted it to this year.
Yeah.
But that's what happens in sports.
You still watching postseason baseball, or when the Padres are out, you kind of lose some interest?
Padres are out. I'm done watching. I'll
done?
keep up with it on ESPN, but as soon as they're done, I'm not turning it on anymore.
All right, so I probably shouldn't mention the Dodgers or anything like that.
No, not at all. Absolutely not.
Good. All right, good to know. I won't mention the Dodgers.
Yeah.
I know you guys are a team that's still trying to gel, but we are a few weeks from the season starting, and there's no more kind of casually bringing things along. You guys are gonna have to play soon, and the record counts. It doesn't. They don't forgive you in March just because in November you guys are still getting to know each other. How quickly or how soon is this team going to be ready for games that count?
Yeah, I think we're ready. Honestly, you never know until that you play that first team, which is always tough with sports. But the coaches have done a great job pulling us in for film and showing us the details that we need to fix. It's not as much we're fixing entire concepts of our team, which is where you start with in the summer, where it's like every little thing you need to fix. We're pulling details of things that we need to get better at, and we're working on it in practice each day and making a lot of progress each day too. You can see it. If you come to consecutive practices, you'll be able to see differences in the things we're working on. And I think, we're getting really close. It's tough when you play against yourself. Coach always says, if offense is really good, the defense looks bad. So when we play other teams, hopefully we'll put that all together and it'll look really good on the floor.
It's also impossible to not have the tendency to cheat a little bit when you know what the offense is running. You kind of know what they're about to do. Even if you're playing defense, you sort of get in the flow of what the offense is doing, and you kind of know what's coming and stuff like that. At some point, there's just such diminished returns on just playing the same people over and over again because you know what it's going to be. And I imagine you guys are ready to see a different colored jersey on.
Most definitely, yeah. We're excited to see that first opposing team.
All right, you guys. Obviously, are a system that we'll all get to know here pretty soon. Why don't you tell me a little bit about why you chose Eric Olin's system? Why this system appealed to you for last year of college playing eligibility? Yeah,
so I had a chance to talk to Coach Olin a few years ago when my original coach left. Coach Logie, and I just was able to get to know him and his staff a little bit and first understand how great of people they are. That was a huge key for me. And then the system was going to allow me to be who I am as a player, play free, play fast, and play smart. And that's what we like to do. We want to run in transition. We want to shoot a lot of threes and have guys that make plays. And I think I'm one of those guys that I believe I can do a lot of things on the floor, but first and foremost, I like to make plays for others. So to be in a situation where I can do that at a very high level and a lot of times a game was something that was very exciting to me. And then I've heard nothing but great things about this team, this program, and these fans, and I wanted to be a part of that.
Anybody that you spoke with that has some experience in the pit, maybe even your dad?
He has coached in the pit. I don't think he ever really – he might have played in the pit, but he didn't play much his freshman year at San Diego State.
So he did tell me he did – you'll have to ask him about this. I talked to your dad, and he told me he got in the game once in the pit. He crossed midcourt and picked up his dribble, was about to pass to somebody else who they were overplaying, so he decided not to and just started dribbling again. And the pit was just getting on him like crazy. And but he picked up his dribble and started dribbling again. And for some reason, they didn't call the double dribble. The fans were in his head from the start. So
now that you say that, I remember that story.
Yeah, he was it was his freshman year, and it was I guess the year after Michael Cage is what he said there at San Diego State. Mm-hmm. But I'm curious how well or at what point was it, and maybe with older brothers this never happened, but at what point were you able to beat Dad in basketball?
Honestly, I never really played him too much in basketball.
You had the older brothers to kind of try and beat up on.
Exactly. Him. He didn't need to play. We would go outside and beat each other up on the court without him. So I would like to say I've always been able to beat him at basketball, but we never really played that much.
Well, all right. So I do on this podcast what I call a scouting report, and it is getting to know or just taking a few minutes with somebody that knows that guest, you, pretty well. Last week I did Dayton's brother, who happens to be here from the Bahamas, Mike, and in this case I did another Mike. I did your dad. I spoke with him just earlier today, and I asked him a few questions. He did tell me the story about when he actually did play in the pit, just a few minutes. He didn't play much. And I some of the stuff we talked about was basketball, right? And he did say kind of the stuff you talked about earlier. He said after the games, he would always tell each of his sons, I saw some things in the game, and if you want to hear them, let me know. If you don't. And he never pressed it. He just said after every game, he kind of gave you guys the choice because he knew it was far more important for him to be dad than always be coach. And I said sometimes you guys took him up on it, and sometimes you didn't, but he also said that you were 7, 8 years old when you were starting to ask him questions like, Dad, what's that guy doing? Like in summer games and stuff like that when he was coaching older players. So growing up the son of a coach, it seems like basketball, you were destined for basketball, huh?
Yeah. I played every sport growing up, but basketball was the main one, and I'd always known that that's what I was going to do.
What were some other sports you were good at?
I thought I was pretty good at soccer. Obviously, my brother played, so we kind of all played growing up.
Mm-hmm.
My last year of soccer, I asked my dad, hey, did you sign me up for soccer? And he said, nope. So that's when I knew it was fully basketball time. Played a little bit of baseball, but didn't like it much. And then some football, some flag football, whatever it was with the school.
Sure. I don't know how often Dad tells you these specifics, but he told me I compared him or asked him to compare you to his players. And he said you're a much better offensive player than he ever was. He said, but, I might have been a little tougher. And he kind of grinned when he said that. Almost like he was still trying to maybe dig a little bit and get a little bit out of you. Does he like telling you that he was maybe a little tougher and still hopes to get a little toughness out of you, even though he admitted you were a very tough player?
Yeah, he always wants me to be better. So he's not going to give me full credit on whatever it is. And he wants to still hold on to a little bit of his glory days as well. So I'll let him have that one.
The 3 questions I ask everybody on these scouting reports is, the first one is just tell me something everybody gets to know about Luke when they get to know him, or just something everybody knows about him. And he did say he checked with in his words, he checked with the boss before he answered this, and got the okay from your mom, and just kind of just saying your praises as proud parents would, that you're a great kid, a great person, a great teammate, and that Lobo fans are just gonna just love you because the way you present yourself and the way you just are as a teammate is you want everybody on the team to be better. And he also mentioned you'll be diving on the floor in the pit. We'll get the fans going crazy too. But the first one, I will say he sang your praises like a proud dad would. So that's good. I imagine it's good to hear, but you probably already know that.
Yeah, no, that is really nice to hear, and it's all because of them. So I wouldn't be the person I am today without my mom and dad.
He also said he is going to be able to get to certainly an early season game before his season starts. But he said Mom will be able to come to a lot more games than he will be able to because he'll be coaching. So I'll ask you too, a little bit of a scouting report on Mom. I look forward to meeting all the parents of all the players, and I usually try to during the season. But I'm curious, am I gonna hear Mom before I actually meet Mom? Is she one of those fans in the crowd, or is she a quiet kind of keep to herself kind of fan? How is she at your games?
Yeah, when we were younger, she definitely used to be, you're gonna hear my mom before you meet her. I would say now, I don't know if it's because we play in front of a little bit bigger crowds now than we did when we were younger, but I don't hear her as much. So hopefully at the pit with the 15,000 rocking in there, you won't be able to hear her at all. But yeah, she's definitely she's vocal.
She'll be right at home in the pit then.
She will be. Yeah,
she'll add to it. Yeah, she can bring that back out. To that point, your dad did say that she was a little more vocal at the kids' games, at you and your brother's games, than just his games. She doesn't do as much yelling when he's coaching, but for her kids, she still, Mama still came out sometimes, and the mom in her, and she'd yell a little bit. So the second question I asked him, or I ask everybody, is tell me something almost nobody knows about Luke. And he said he kind of went 2 ways here. He said, first of all, and a lot of Lobo fans have already seen this on social media, He said you flew a plane. You said that on that social media clip where it's kind of a get to know the Lobos clip that the UNM social media accounts put out. And he said he didn't even know anything about that really. But I'll start with that, and then I'll kind of tell you what his answer was. But tell me this flying a plane thing, man.
Yeah, it was a really cool experience. So one of my best friends from Point Loma, Brian Garacki, his family lives in Oregon, and his dad and brother fly planes. They're farmers, so they use the planes for their crops or whatever. And they took us up in the plane, and I was sitting in the passenger seat, the co-pilot seat, and he says, "Anybody want to fly the plane? You want to fly the plane?" And I was like, "Oh, heck no! Like, I'd rather live, right? Like, I've never flown a plane before. I don't know what I'm doing." And so then he just picks his hands up and he says, "All right, well, somebody better." And so I grabbed the wheel and just turned it a little bit and kind of flew, and then was like, "All right, that's good enough for me," and passed it back to him. But it was a really fun experience.
All right. So this is what Dad said about you that almost nobody knows. I don't know how old he said you were, but he said when you were younger, you were always big. And he said before you caught up to your body, he said you were like a big puppy, and you came across a big dog once at the Home Depot. Do you know this story?
I do, yeah.
Yeah, he says he remembers it was like two puppies just getting along because you came across a huge dog, a big dog, right? And he just said you and this dog were just hanging out, and you could have been there all day. And he says you absolutely loved big dogs kind of ever since then. And he kind of likened you at the time to sort of being a big puppy. Do your parents tell you that you are, or I guess not your parents, are you a dog guy?
I'm a big dog guy. I do remember that story. I did not expect him to share that story. It's not what I expected to hear on this, but I believe it was a Mastiff in Home Depot. Yeah. So I don't know, 200-pound dog, whatever. And I'm a big dog guy. We have a dog back home, a black lab named Bear. That's about 100 pounds. So miss that guy a lot. But eventually, I want to get a dog, Mastiff, big one.
I was going to say when you're out of college and maybe settled down a little bit, done playing after college, it's kind of hard for a basketball player in college or after college when you're still playing to have a big dog like that and travel.
Yeah, for sure. It's not possible, and it wouldn't be fair to the dog either. Right. But when I'm done and everything, that's definitely the plan, is to get a massive dog.
So not just a big dog guy, but a big. Yeah, a big dog guy. Yeah, and that's the beauty of getting parents on these scouting reports, is they tell me stories like that. Last week, Mike told me about Dayton, that when he was younger he couldn't play the trumpet. This week, I learned that you're a dog guy. That I love this stuff. This is way better than any basketball stuff. The third question is, as well as you know Luke, what question would you ask him if you were interviewing him in this podcast? And we kind of touched on a lot of this earlier. You talking about the Division II, that was your path to the pit. Was you went the D2 route, you chased a national championship, you developed there in a lot of ways that you're proud of. He did ask, would you give that same advice to somebody else? And I think it comes from a place not just that you were proud of your path, like that was the path that worked for you and you're happy with it. But that path may not be for everyone. So would you give the same advice to somebody? Would you tell somebody, go the D2 route?
Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily say go the D2 route. It would be find the right fit. I think Point Loma was the perfect fit for me, and so that's why it worked out. But whatever it is, don't just go based on how high a level you can go or how much money you're going to get nowadays. Yeah. It has to be a place where you're going to see yourself growing, where you're going to see yourself getting a chance to play, because that's very important, and you find yourself in a situation with really good people. If you can find that, you'll be successful.
I'm curious too. Some of this you may not know till like 5 years down the road. When did you know that with 1 year of college eligibility left, that you did want to go to this Division I route and go to UNM? Was there a chance you would have stayed for one more year where you were, or did it? Was this when you knew you had one last year, did you know you wanted to do 1 year at D1?
Yeah, me and my coach both knew that my last year at Point Loma was going to be the last one. Mm-hmm. I was out with a knee, trying to work my way back that same year. If I could have made my way back that year, maybe I would have gone last year. But but I wanted to play for Coach Downer and play Loma one more year,
Okay.
and then I was going to move on.
All right. How much? I did ask you about like proving a point, the chip on the shoulder stuff, and all that. Did you have to deal with any of that here at UNM, like with your teammates? How many of them did you kind of have to prove? Like, yeah, I'm just fine on the court with you, even though I'm coming from a D2 and you're coming from wherever you're coming from. Did you have to do any of that proving in your own locker room?
Not that I know of.
Yeah.
I think we have such great guys on the team, and everybody was new. I think that was a big thing. Is if there was 10 returners, would have been
Right.
like, oh, who's this guy coming in from a D2? Who does he think he is? But everybody was new. Everybody was trying to prove themselves and show what they can do. And I think the play spoke for itself when we got out there.
All right, you mentioned you could play 1 through 5. Like you could be playing point guard, you could be playing center. I've only seen you guys play actual, 5-on-5 run a couple times, very briefly, and you actually were in at the 5 for some times. Obviously, that's not ideal, but you can do it, and that's that versatility. I'm curious if that's your biggest strength, or what you would say your biggest strength on the court is. Is it that versatility, maybe?
I think that's a big one. I think we talked about it before already. It's the IQ, and I think that's why I can be so versatile. Just finding mismatches. If I play at the 1, there's probably a size difference. If I play at the 5, there's probably a speed difference. So that versatility creates mismatches on the floor, and when you have mismatches, it creates advantages, and that's ultimately what we're looking for.
Can you defend it all?
I can defend a little. Yeah. No,
I
I take a lot of pride in defense.
Okay.
Take charges, get steals, rebounds, whatever it takes. So I think I'm very good on defensive end.
All right, I don't expect you to be as bold as Dayton was last week on this one, but I am going to ask you, are there some players on this team that you're kind of looking forward to Lobo fans seeing? I'll take yourself out of the equation, but some players on this team that, like, again, everybody's new. I get that, but like, who's really going to surprise some players? And Dayton had some pretty bold predictions. Maybe you got the same ones. I don't know, but anybody on this team that you've been maybe a little surprised with, or you think are really going to surprise Lobo fans?
I've been really excited and happy about how our freshmen have been playing. All of them, but specifically Jake and Uriah.
Yeah.
Those two have been really special in practice. And not that I didn't expect a lot from them, but they've really proven themselves and are going to be big factors on this team. And then also, like Dayton, that dude is hard to stop.
Yeah.
I think of myself as a pretty good defender, and I'll be in front of him 1 second and he'll be at the rim the next second. And it's special. Not everybody can do that. So I'm excited to see what he can do against not his own teammates.
Well, he did it against the Lobos a couple times last year at Utah State, but he kind of said this is what a lot of players in the Bahamas play like, and I'll frankly have to take his word for it. I'm not as up to speed on all the Bahamas, all kinds of players and what their style is in the Bahamas, but he says it's a real physical attack the rim, but not just be okay with contact, but almost seek the contact when you're on offense, and kind of go from there. Does he do that in practice a lot, where he kind of creates the contact, and you're either going to foul him or he's going to pretty much make you have a tough time guarding him because he's so physical?
Yeah, definitely. He puts defenders in really tough positions because he's so quick. He gets advantages, and once he gets an advantage, it's going to be hard to not foul him or let him finish. You can bring 2, he'll split the double. Like he does. He's pretty special on the ball. So I'm excited to see it on the court.
All right, who's the team? Is there a jokester on this team? Is there somebody who likes to always crack jokes?
I would say probably to Javis.
Okay.
He's just always got something to say, and it's usually pretty funny. So
Yeah.
whether it's on the court with Coach Olin messing around with the coaches or in the locker room, he's pretty hilarious.
All right, man. What's the ceiling for this team? I know it was at a different level, but you had some pretty good teams that you've played on in college. This is a different level now. How good can this Lobo team be?
I think we can be really special. We've got a lot of guys that can really go, and I came here because I want to make the tournament and I want to make a run in the tournament. And I don't see why this team can't do that. So I'm really excited for this season.
I'll sign off with this, man. Lobo basketball season starts in just a few weeks. And what have you learned so far? Two-part question. What have you learned so far about the Lobo program that you're excited about? And what can't you find out until that season starts that you're looking forward to?
One thing I've learned is that everybody around here really supports us. And that really feels good when we're working. It's like I'm working for this community, this fan base, this university. But with that being said, I don't know what that's like until I step on that pit floor and there's 15,000 in there going crazy for us. So I'm really excited to experience that for the first time.
Yeah. All right, man. When I do a podcast on your dad, I'll have you do the scouting report. You can tell me when his dog story, or whatever the equivalent is to him loving big dogs.
Yeah, definitely.
Appreciate you, man. Good luck this season.
Thank you. Nice talking to you.
All right, there you go. Hope you guys enjoyed that little conversation with Luke Haupt, one of the new Lobo basketball players for the 2025-2026 season, giving you some insight on the players themselves, but also the team as a whole, and kind of why he picked coming to UNM, and kind of give us some insights on Eric Olin and how things run, and why he chose to play for the Lobos and Eric Olin. And it is a compliment when you're the son of a highly successful high school basketball coach, and you pick where you're going to play in college based on the coach and how they run a system and how they run a program, and that kind of stuff. It's a compliment to the coaching staff, and I can tell you right now that family really likes this Lobo coaching staff. It's not just Eric Olin; it's the entire staff, and they're excited about this season. I know I'm excited to cover it. I get paid to watch basketball. I'm excited whether they're good or bad, but I kind of got a feeling that this team's going to be pretty good. So we'll find out what the preseason media poll says about them next week. Start finding out what they're like on the court at the end of next week. They got an exhibition game at Washington State, got another exhibition game against Northern Arizona in the pit, and then it starts for real. The season starts November 4th, I think is the date of their first game. So hope you guys enjoyed this podcast. Hope you guys enjoy all this coverage on the Albuquerque Journal of all our sports and all topics, really. But abqjournal.com/subscribe is how you can help local journalism. Subscribe to our print product, subscribe to our digital product. Either one helps bring podcasts like this. And we've got a lot of podcasts for you. If this isn't your one, you can find one that you do like on abqjournalcast.com. And that's where you can find all our podcasts. So please subscribe to this podcast if you are watching or listening, however you're here. Glad you are. Until next time, guys, thanks for watching.